Welcome everybody. In today's video, we're going to be looking at the big topic of data warehouses. With so much data to deal with, programs and institutions are having big questions to answer. Do they build or buy so that they can get the best data and insights on their students and program performance? We unpack the various aspects schools need to consider, the pros and cons of each approach, and the way to find the right answers so that universities, schools, and programs and students are all set up for success. So let's talk about holistic success. Hi, everyone. I'm Kelly Dore, VP of Science and Innovation and co-founder at Acuity Insights. Welcome to this episode of our Holistic Success Show. Our channel is dedicated to looking at all aspects of holistic success within higher education, whether it's talking about holistic approaches to admissions, program management, or data and insights to further boost student and program success. Here with me today is Adam Tarnowsky, who leads product management for our analytics products. Analytics is a comprehensive data integration platform for health sciences programs that consolidates information from diverse systems into intuitive dashboards, facilitating informed decision-making. It provides a longitudinal view of both students and learner performance, streamlining data processes and enhancing the quality and efficiency for both programs and students' outcome evaluations. Adam works closely with our partners to develop analytics further and know the ins and outs of data and insight management across health sciences. Today, he's here to talk to us about data warehouses and whether to build or buy. Welcome, Adam.
Thank you, Kelly. Yeah, really excited to be here today.
So with that, let's get started. Adam, maybe let's begin by all getting on the same page. What is a data warehouse and why is everybody talking about it?
Yeah, that's a really good first question. Data warehouses are a pretty technical term, and so you may have heard them. They've also turned into a bit of a buzzword these days. But I think the big picture with a data warehouse is it's a way to pull information together from various places in your organization into one unified view. And so what that really unlocks is this ability for you to kind of get a complete picture of everything that those systems have captured all in one place. So I like to think of it as it really allows you to get at the true potential of all of that data because it's living together.
So that means there's an opportunity, to not look on an Excel spreadsheet here and go into this program here. And is that what you're talking about?
Definitely. I think anytime you think of having to create a report that just is painful and you wish you could do it more often, but you really can't because you have to talk to your colleague in this department and get their Excel sheet. You need to go consult another system you don't normally have access to. These kind of problems happen often in institutions and companies around the world, and a data warehouse really aims to solve that.
Are there any other big problems that people are seeking to solve when they're looking at implementing an educational data warehouse?
Yeah, I've worked with a lot of partners through the years on our analytics product, which is an educational data warehouse and dashboarding system. And I'd say there's quite a few different problems that they're trying to solve. And it all depends on which office or which department in the school they belong to. So at the highest level, they're trying to get that comprehensive overview of what their data is trying to tell them. Oftentimes we hear these initiatives are maybe started by the dean of the school. They're going to their associate deans and going, I need these high level KPIs telling us how our school is doing. Can you get them? Can you put it on a dashboard? I want to be able to view them daily. The reality is, without a data warehouse, again, that's really hard to do. You really need something that's going to automate these pieces and pull them into a single place that then can power your dashboards. Oftentimes they're doing other things too. They're trying to break down these data silos. By data silo, what I really mean is data that's locked in, say, a system or a spreadsheet on someone's computer, as we kind of said earlier in an example. Areas where it's really difficult for maybe the right people to get at that data to make informed decisions based off of what the data is telling them. This can have knock-on effects for things like trying to implement continuous quality improvement processes at your school, you really do need data to know if you're continuously improving those processes. And you need a snapshot that's more than, say, once a year. We also have people from student affairs come to us saying, look, I generally know which students are starting to fall through the cracks, but I really need some insight into who's going on a path towards needing remediation, or who might be on the bubble. Help me identify some of these early indicators that they might be struggling. And again, when that student's performance data is across multiple systems, that can be a really hard picture to piece together manually. On the flip side, we also have people in departments responsible for the health of the program or the curriculum or even the assessments that are given to the students. And they have, again, no really easy way to quickly and frequently look at the health of those things. And so really what we're talking about here is people are having this problem where there's these hurdles to really using their data in the way that maybe they originally thought they'd be able to. And data warehousing, again, really tries to reduce those hurdles and make it easy for everybody to access that data.
And it sounds like, Adam, these are hurdles that are maybe daily in some cases where people want to know, the impact of change or monitor things. Can it be used for even things like accreditation or those sort of bigger questions that programs have and they need to try and scramble to pull together all sorts of data? Does it work for those as well?
Definitely. I think accreditation is a really good example because what we hear is that it's usually an all hands on deck approach, right? Where everybody has to kind of prioritize getting the information needed to prove that people, or that the program rather, is fitting with the accreditation standards that their school is held to. I think accreditation and continuous quality improvement also go hand in hand because more accreditation bodies these days are looking for continuous proof and evidence that you have been following those standards, not just in that snapshot in time when they've come to visit, but throughout the year. And so this really allows to increase the frequency at which you could be doing this while also reducing the burden of collecting that data, cleaning that data, and getting it all to play nicely together in the format that the accreditation body wants.
Super. So it sounds like there's maybe a couple of ways programs go about getting their own data warehouse. Why do some programs try to build their own data warehouse?
Yeah, historically there hasn't been many other options to solving this problem. It's really only been in the past few years that vendors have kind of heard the call and started to build something. And Acuity Insights analytics platform is one of those examples. And you know, in my experience, it's usually the programs that are at the forefront of kind of cutting edge technologies or cutting edge trends. These are usually schools that have large budgets and large IT capabilities that go in and say, this is a core competency or strength we want as an organization. We want to be data driven. We don't see anything out there, so we're going to try and do this ourselves. Um, it can look deceptively simple to bring all this data into one place, but there's a reason why it's schools with large budgets that are the ones trying to tackle this, because oftentimes you're looking at a large expenditure, maybe not from the software licenses involved to get it up and running, but more from the people you need to deploy and the resources you need to actually build that out, and analysts to understand the problem that you're trying to solve with it.
Are there any other maybe hidden costs or barriers that you might not see at first when you think of tackling your own project of building your own data warehouse?
Yeah, there are many, and I think you need to really understand that data warehouses are complex pieces of technology. I mean, you can kind of see it on the front end. You're pulling data from all these different systems. Oftentimes, if the data needs to be compared together, you need to normalize it all into a single format. You need to be able to clean it and make sure that if you're using a student identifier to recognize a student in one system, but you're using something else in another system to recognize that same student, you need to be able to have a mapping that says, hey, this student is equivalent. You also need to take care of maybe quirks or oddities in the system that you're pulling that data from. It may not actually always be right, and you may need to do some cleaning or again some transforming of that data to really pull it together. That's a complex problem, and there's kind of a million and one different ways that that data can go wrong, and you need to have the resources and the talent to be able to look at that data and monitor it regularly and clean it and update it and ensure that it's performing and following a certain format. There's other things too. There's making sure that you understand what each department wants out of a data warehouse and making sure your whole institution's all aligned. And that in itself can be a very time consuming process. Each department might have their own particular needs or want to see something in a different way. How do you prioritize those? How do you make sure that when you've built something for them, that it's actually, scratching the itch that they have? You also have to consider how to build the integrations with the systems that you're pulling the data from. Some of these systems, you're going to be lucky enough to have something called an API, an application programming interface, and this allows you easy access to programmatically pull data from that system. But the unfortunate truth is, a lot of these systems don't have that, and there's usually terms and conditions that prevent you from taking other approaches to actually pulling that information out. You also have to consider the cost of licensing the different software, such as a business intelligence tool that's going to allow you to build the dashboards and visualizations. You're going to need to consider a budget for maintenance. So once you've built it, how do you make sure it keeps on going? How do you make sure you can expand it over time? You're going to need support people that are going to be able to answer questions from the different departments using this warehouse. And you're going to have to also take into account the hidden costs of what happens when your resources, this talent that's built the warehouse, have left. They might be leaving with critical knowledge about how and why that warehouse was built. And if you don't have a way to backfill them easily or bring up other people and kind of share that knowledge, that can really spell a lot of trouble and cost overruns for continuing operating that warehouse. I think one of the biggest hidden costs, though, is just underestimating the time it takes to build and maintain a data warehouse. And I think this is true for a lot of IT projects that organizations undertake. There's this pretty famous Harvard Business Review study from back in 2011, and they've got some really compelling statistics about IT projects going over budget. And I think the key statistics that you can pull out of that report is that about 1 in 6 IT projects take about 70% more time to complete than initially budgeted for. And they're on average twice as much as what was originally budgeted. Extra time means extra costs, and the same study noted that an average IT project, maybe one that doesn't take 70% more time, still usually comes in 30% over budget. And so that, to me, is one of the biggest hidden costs, is have you budgeted a contingency that might be up to twice as much as what you originally had, and do you have the buy-in and support from the organization for that?
That's a really great summary, Adam. I think, I hadn't considered all the different ways and impacts that could have had, particularly the additional time and budget and ongoing maintenance that you highlighted. So maybe talk through some of the benefits of purchasing an off-the-shelf warehouse solution.
Yeah, I think the most obvious benefit is really that you get that kind of immediate return on investment. You're not waiting years, which is how long it probably will take to get a data warehouse up and running. You're getting it within months. I think that also means you're de-risking a lot of it. Yes, you may want to consider that the vendor you're going with is a vendor that's trustworthy and that they're giving you the kind of right requirements that you have. But I think, again, it's really being able to de-risk that and not having to worry about budget overruns. It's kind of like a known cost and a known system. It may not do 100% of what your institution or organization is looking to do, but it will likely cover 60, 70, 80%. And you really have to balance that out. Is that worth it, or is it worthwhile to spend that extra money to develop your own system that's going to give you everything that you need? Yeah, I think this really means, significant savings and a big leap forward in being able to be data informed and solve those problems that you have, whether that be CQI or helping to identify students struggling, things of that nature.
So, what would you recommend to a school who's considering whether to build or buy a data warehouse? What are the things that they should be thinking about and really considering?
My best advice is to make sure you do your homework and make sure you're being really honest and trying to be as accurate as possible with kind of what you're budgeting for. You really have to ask yourself, have you fully considered all of the features that you need alongside your costs? If not, you're going to want to build that into your budget. And that in itself probably requires a budget. You're going to need someone that's going out there and doing some preliminary work to understand what each department in your organization really needs. You also need to understand what kind of support from various stakeholders do you have, given that the budget for building something yourself is going to be quite a large expense. You also need to consider what would it take to get buy-in from stakeholders that have keys to certain data silos that may not be very interested in tearing those data silos down. And then you have to think about, do you have the talent or a plan to acquire the talent and resources to actually create that data warehouse alongside the dashboards and the visualizations that are powered by it? These people are in high demand these days, and they can be hard to come by. All this kind of boils down to like making sure you have that realistic budget of what it will cost to build versus buying, and making sure that you're again weighing that with what you could possibly get in a short time frame from a turnkey solution from a vendor versus what you could possibly get from actually building it yourself. I kind of said this at the beginning, but it's really those schools that want to be seen as being on the cutting edge of technology trends and want to develop a competency in being leaders, let's say, in data warehousing. I think that represents a pretty small portion of kind of the industry. I think most people need to be data literate. They need to have that kind of expense necessary in order to be that leader in the space. That's something for your institution to answer.
So, Adam, what I'm hearing is, maybe it's different types of programs that, might want to build versus buy. Maybe just to think a little bit more about those who are looking for a pre-existing solution, because maybe understanding the complexities of data warehouse isn't, an asset that they have, that's not, they don't have somebody to lead that. What does Acuity, for example, do to help programs that want to understand data warehouses and don't even know where to begin or how to keep going once they've implemented it?
Yeah, so at Acuity, for people that we work with, we kind of go alongside step by step in the process. So I think something that oftentimes people don't think about is, you've got the technology in place and maybe you have bought something off the shelf and you're implementing it. The product is going to only be as good as the support you have in getting it implemented and getting it going in your institution. If you're pulling in data to a data warehouse, but you have no support or help to understand how to clean that data, how to set it up so that it's all playing together nicely, those efforts might not actually bear any good fruit. And so at Acuity, I'm really proud of the fact that, again, we kind of go step by step with our partners to understand their data and to educate them on best practices for how to structure that data within their individual systems and also within the data warehouse itself. It's almost, I would say, data governance light, this idea of how do you govern how your data looks and how it's used in the system. we really help our partners start on that journey and kind of get to a place where that data is, transformed in a way that becomes very useful for them once it gets to the warehouse.
Super. I think for a lot of programs, that kind of support would be incredibly reassuring to make sure that they understand what they're doing and they're managing their data, in the best way with the best practices in place. Adam, thank you so much for sharing your insights with us today. To all of you, thank you for watching and listening. If you haven't subscribed to our show already, please do so. And feel free to share this episode with any of your colleagues who might find it useful. Until then, we'll catch you at the next episode. If you enjoyed this episode of our show, please be sure to check out the other episodes. And don't forget to subscribe. We have a new episode releasing every week.